Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Everyone saw the headline. Everyone saw the big name. Caleb Durbin, NL Rookie of the Year, finalist, flashy infielder, energy guy, 18 stolen bases, the whole package arriving in Boston right on the eve of spring training. And look, that's a great story. That is the story. At least that's what they want you to think. But here's the thing about this Red Sox front office under Craig Breslow. When they make a six-player trade where every single player involved is already on a 40-man roster, and they ask for a specific guy that most Milwaukee fans had completely forgotten about, there is something deeper going on, something the casual fan scrolled right past. And if you want to understand why this trade might actually age a lot better than people realize, you need to stop talking about Durbin for a second and start talking about the third piece in this deal, a player who, if the Red Sox are right about him, could quietly become one of the most satisfying stories of the 2026 season. Let's go all the way back to the beginning because context is everything here. On February 10th, 2026, the day before spring training officially opened in Fort Myers, the Boston Red Sox completed a blockbuster six-player swap with the Milwaukee Brewers. Boston sent left-hander Kyle Harrison, infielder David Hamilton, and pitching prospect Shane Drowan to Milwaukee. In return, they received NL Rookie of the Year finalist Caleb Durbin, infielder Andrew Monasterio, utility man Anthony Siegler, and a competitive balance round B draft pick, the 67th overall selection in the 2026 draft. Every single player in this deal was already on a 40-man roster. That is not a small detail. That is the whole detail. When a front office builds a trade exclusively around 40-man roster players, they are telling you something loud and clear. Every single one of these guys is legitimately in the mix. This isn't about organizational filler or depth chart padding. This is about adding players who are theoretically competing for real jobs when opening day comes around in Cincinnati. Now, Caleb Durbin is obviously the centerpiece and deserves his flowers. The guy is 25 years old, finished third in NL Rookie of the Year, voting last season behind Drake Baldwin and Cade Horton, and slashed .256, .334, .387 with 11 home runs, 25 doubles, 18 steals, and a 2.8 BBUR across 136 games for those NL Central champion Brewers. He's got a 9.9% strikeout rate, which is basically unheard of in today's swing-or-die baseball landscape, and he plays third base, second base, and shortstop. Craig Breslow was practically glowing when he talked about Durbin, saying the Red Sox loved his bat-to-ball skills, his ability to stay in the zone, and his defensive versatility. For a team that lost Alex Bregman to the Chicago Cubs in free agency and had a lineup that was honestly too streaky for comfort last year, getting Durbin was a genuine win. Manager Alex Cora admitted that the morning after Bregman signed with Chicago, it felt like the world was falling apart in Boston. And then the front office answered, first with a trade for starter Ranger Suarez, then with the addition of veteran Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, and finally, dramatically, with Durbin landing right before the first full squad workout. That is a good story. But we are not here to talk about the good story everyone already knows. We are here to talk about the story hiding in plain sight. Anthony Siegler. Write the name down. When the trade was announced, most Red Sox fans either didn't notice Siegler's name, or if they did, they shrugged and moved on. Depth catcher, utility body, throw-in piece, whatever. And honestly, that reaction is understandable. His big league numbers with Milwaukee last season were not pretty. In 34 games and 73 plate appearances, he hit just .194 per .2992, .210. That is not the kind of line that makes anyone stop and start planning a parade. The Brewers had essentially moved on from him. Some analysts suggested Milwaukee would have designated him for assignment in the near future anyway. But here is the part that changes everything. Craig Breslow didn't just accept Siegler as filler padding out a roster transaction. According to beat reporter Christopher Smith of Mass Live, Breslow specifically required Siegler as part of the incoming package. He asked for this guy. And when Breslow talked about him, he didn't sound like a man describing an afterthought. He sounded like a man who had done his homework. Breslow said, and this is important, that Siegler is a left-handed bat who can hit right-handed pitching, that he is coming off a really strong AAA season, and that he maybe hasn't gotten an extended look in the big leagues to really prove just how talented he is. That is not boilerplate. That is not front office fluff. That is a baseball operations chief telling you, in the most measured analytical language possible, that he sees something real here. And when you dig into Seigler's background, the picture gets a lot more interesting very quickly. Anthony Seigler was drafted in the first round of the 2018 MLB draft by the New York Yankees. The first round. Teams don't hand those picks out to anybody. The Yankees saw something special enough in this kid to make him a first-round selection. And first-round pedigree does not disappear just because the path got complicated. His journey through professional baseball has been anything but linear. He spent 6 full seasons grinding through New York's farm system, a period that was disrupted by the 2020 pandemic shutdown that essentially robbed an entire generation of minor leaguers of a critical developmental year. On top of that, Seigler had to make one of the most difficult positional transitions in all of baseball, moving from his primary role as a catcher over to infield play at second base and third base. That is not a minor adjustment. That is a complete reimagining of your professional identity. Learning new footwork, new angles, new throwing mechanics, new responsibilities on every single pitch. It takes time. It takes repetition. It takes a front office patient enough to give you the runway to develop. After leaving the Yankees organization, Seigler signed a minor league deal with the Brewers before last season. Milwaukee assigned him to AAA Nashville, his first extended stint at the highest level of the minor leagues. And what happened there is the number that should make every Red Sox fan sit up a little straighter. In 72 games and over 300 plate appearances at AAA Nashville, Anthony Seigler slashed .285 /, 414, 478. He also went 23 for 27 on stolen base attempts, showing off elite base-running instincts that almost nobody was paying attention to. The 414 on-base percentage is the number that should jump off the page. 414. In a Red Sox lineup that has desperately needed grinders, guys who work counts, guys who don't expand the zone and hand the pitcher free outs, a left-handed bat posting a 414 OBP in AAA is exactly the kind of profile that a smart front office targets. Seigler himself was refreshingly direct when he arrived at spring training. He told reporters, quote, "I think they got me here for a reason. I don't know what they're going to have me do yet. I'm doing a lot of third base, second base, and footwork right now, but I'm definitely excited. That is the mentality of a guy who hasn't gotten his real shot yet and knows it. Hunger is a skill. Chip on the shoulder energy is a skill. And players who carry that energy into their first real organizational opportunity have a habit of surprising people. Now, here is the part that, if you love Red Sox baseball and you love a little poetic justice, is going to make you smile. Anthony Seigler is a former New York Yankees first-round pick, and this Red Sox organization has quietly developed a reputation for finding exactly that kind of player and getting more out of them than the Yankees ever did. The most obvious example is Garrett Whitlock, a Rule 5 pick grabbed directly out of the Yankees system, who transformed into one of the most valuable arms on the Boston pitching staff. Carlos Narvaez is another name that fits that same pipeline. There is something deeply, almost cosmically satisfying about watching Boston dig into New York's organizational cast-offs and turn them into contributors. And if Seigler can translate that AAA production to Fenway Park, it would be yet another chapter in that quietly glorious tradition. Let's also acknowledge what the Red Sox gave up in this trade and why it makes sense. Kyle Harrison is 24 years old and was once regarded as one of the top left-handed pitching prospects in all of baseball. But his time in Boston was a disappointment. He posted a 4.04 ERA in limited big league innings and spent most of 2025 bouncing between AAA and the majors. The Red Sox had dangled him in trade talks all winter and simply couldn't find a better return. David Hamilton is one of the fastest players in baseball by sprint speed metrics, 95th percentile per StatCast, and is an elite defensive second baseman, but he hit just 198, 257, 333 in 91 games, and the offense was never going to cut it at the big league level consistently. Shane Drohan is a 27-year-old pitching prospect with a wipeout slider, but his health history has been a recurring concern. All three of those players had real value. None of them were irreplaceable. And the Brewers, with their legendary pitching development operation that just turned journeyman Quinn Priester into a legitimate rotation piece, are exactly the right landing spot for Harrison and Drohan. This is a trade that works for both sides, but Boston got the better end of the upside equation, and here is why. The Red Sox didn't just get Caleb Durbin to fill a hole, They got a draft pick that slots in as the 67th overall selection, which is legitimate mid-round of the first round value. They got Andrew Monasterio, a 28-year-old Swiss Army knife infielder who hit .270, 3/119, 437 last year and can play all four infield spots competently. And they got Anthony Seigler, a player the front office specifically targeted, with first-round pedigree, a monster AAA season, elite base running numbers, positional flexibility at both catcher and infield, and a left-handed bat in a lineup that can get very right-hand heavy. Will Seigler start the season in Boston's opening day lineup? Almost certainly not. He is ticketed for AAA Worcester to start 2026, and that is the realistic projection. But here is what Red Sox fans have learned the hard and frustrating way over the past several seasons. The guys who start in AAA are very often the guys we end up relying on. Injuries happen, slumps happen, roster plans change the moment the first pitch of the season is thrown. And when that moment comes, when the Red Sox need a left-handed bat off the bench or a starting option at third or second base, they are going to reach for their depth. And there is a real possibility that the depth player they reach for is a guy most fans will be hearing about for what feels like the first time, even though, if you were paying attention, you heard his name the day this trade dropped. The broader point here is about what this trade says about this front office and this moment for the Red Sox organization. After Bregman left, after the questions about direction started mounting again, after fans spent another winter wondering whether this team was genuinely building towards something or just spinning its wheels, Craig Breslow and his team answered. They didn't just fill a need, they filled it strategically, layered it with upside, and quietly tucked a sleeper inside the deal that most people either missed or dismissed. That is how smart organizations build, not just through the blockbuster headline move that lights up social media for 48 hours, but through the calculated, analytical, data-backed swings on players who haven't been given their full opportunity yet, players with pedigree, players with production, players who are hungry and motivated and walking into a new environment ready to prove they belong. If Anthony Seigler forces his way into the Red Sox conversation sometime this summer, and if Craig Breslow ends up being right about what he saw in that AAA line and that first-round ceiling, we are going to look back at this trade very differently. Not just as the deal that brought Caleb Durbin to Fenway, but as the deal where Boston quietly grabbed a sleeper that nobody else was watching closely enough. And that is the kind of baseball move that ages beautifully. So here is what I want to know from you. Do you think Anthony Seigler is just organizational depth, a body to fill out the Worcester roster? Or do you think there is something real there? Is Breslow onto something? Or is this a case of a front office talking up a throw-in to justify the optics of the deal? Drop your honest take in the comments below. I read every single one of them, and this is exactly the kind of conversation I built this channel to have. If you are a real Red Sox fan, the kind who watches every game, debates every roster move, and rides the highs and lows of this franchise with everything you have got, then hit that like button right now and make sure you subscribe to Red Sox Today. We are a brand new channel working toward our first 1,000 subscribers, and this is the place for honest, real, no-fluff Red Sox talk. The good stuff, the frustrating stuff, and yes, the quietly exciting stuff hiding inside a 6-player trade on the eve of spring training. This is where you belong. Let's build something great together.
Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.